In this Tales of Arise review, we're going to be taking a look at the 17th main entry to the Tales series and what this action RPG has to offer. Tales of Arise is a part of a popular JRPG series of games that follows up the previous Tales of Berseria. This is not a sequel or continuation, so you don't have to worry about not having played any of the other Tales titles when it comes to story, but you will find some familiarity in gameplay systems if you have. The game's plot follows two characters from opposing worlds, Dana and Rena. Rena has an advanced civilization built with technology and magic, while Dana has a more medieval society and are taken as slaves by the people of Rena, so expect a bit of a dark story here. At the beginning, you take up the role of the man in the iron mask known as Alphen. He's lost his memory and is one of the slaves that is working under Rena. He also has an awkward experience of not being able to remove his iron helmet, which he shares isn't great for a number of reasons, including eating. From the get-go, he often finds himself in situations trying to protect others, but as you can imagine, this can cause some problems. During his time there, he comes across a prisoner, Shion, who possesses a terrible power, which is both a blessing and a curse. One of Alphen's unique abilities is that he can't feel pain, which turns out to be very handy when meeting Shion, but I won't go into too much of the story to avoid spoilers. Expect a lot of story here as the game is very narrative driven, especially when it comes to unlocking new areas and even unlocking further skill wheels. While Arise does have explorable areas, the world is much more linear. As you get further into Arise, you discover new areas with different climates, cultures, and this is something the game does well in my opinion. You will also meet a host of characters, some will become a part of your party which you can control, customize in both skills and costumes. If you've played Scarlet Nexus, you may find some similarities here in the type of action combat. While it's not exactly the same as Scarlet Nexus, you could switch between characters' abilities by borrowing them. Tales of Arise focuses on party switching mechanics as well as boost attacks and mystic art abilities. Once Shion joins your party, you can use her boost ability, which means you can also combo her attacks with Alphen's. You have all character boost abilities on a sort of wheel at all times, but you will need to wait to charge them before you can initiate them. Instead of switching characters on the fly like you do in say Genshin Impact, you can enter the main menu and choose the character to make active. This definitely took some getting used to, but makes the combat a little less hectic as you can slow down and plan your next actions. At the beginning, these choices of abilities are rather limited, but as you progress you unlock further skills and gain further characters that join your party. You get to customize your combat a lot more. Customization isn't just limited to skills either, you can have equipment, armor, and even craft weapons to deal better damage, or wield a certain element. In order to gain more skills or boost your passives, you will need SP, which is gained from progressing as well as side quests. The combat relies a lot on charging up these moves and also hitting the boost attacks when it's triggered. There are also team boost strikes that can be easy to miss if you don't initiate them on time, that can feel a little frustrating if you miss them as they happen so fast, but when you do get to fire them off, they're very satisfying to watch. This will happen when you achieve a number of hits in a row. The more combos you achieve, the better you will do overall, earning you a better battle score resulting in experience and SP. While there is a world to explore, it's rather linear. You only have a few paths to take in each area which are mapped out already. You can climb and sometimes jump, but this is rather limited. Enemies in Arise are triggered by running into them initiating a fight. It kind of reminds me of how turn-based titles such as Monster Hunter Stories 2 works, where you can run away from the encounter in real time, but the enemies can chase you down if you stay in the aggro range. The combat is hack and slash where you can lock on an attack, with some attacks automatically bridging the gap between you and the enemy. There were a few instances of awkward targeting, but you mostly get used to this as time goes on. Since you get both aerial attacks and ground attacks, you can often find the combat to feel a little bit like floating off the ground in some places, especially with Alphen. I found playing with a controller seemed more natural for the combat style as it's fast paced with some button mashing when you're trying to keep those combos going. If you are looking for more of a challenge, you can select a harder difficulty, or if you just want to experience the story, there is a story mode option. Playing in normal, you will still need to grind for some levels to face higher leveled enemies, but some of these are optional or side quests. While enemy encounters can be a little repetitive in places, there are quite the variation as you progress more. The bosses have some interesting moves that may take some trial and error to get the right combination of abilities, and some will have weak points which you can target. Strategy in this game is how your party members behave. Whether they concentrate on healing you or aggressively attacking enemies, etc., you can use a number of consumable items to replenish health and even resurrect your party members. If your party completely wipes, you will lose CP, which is used for abilities if you wish to have another go. This makes fights a slight risk, but you can always fast travel back to an inn or campfire to replenish, so it's not too detrimental. But this could mean you have to run back if your fight was far from a fast travel point. Cooking allows you to gain combat buffs including increased damage for a certain amount of time. You can cook food at the rest areas such as at an inn or at campfires. Each fight you will use a certain amount of CP, and time to time you will need to rest in order to replenish that CP in case you don't have enough items on hand to do so. At the beginning you will find this running out rather quickly, meaning a lot of back and forth. Luckily, there are fast travel points, so it makes it a little less tedious, but a little bit repetitive if you're sticking around to do some side quests or farm experience. The graphics for Tales of Arise is a mix of 3D models with a paintbrush styled finish, which gives Arise a unique look. I think the style does actually quite well to enhance the world and the characters you meet. As I mentioned before, the story is told in a mix of anime styled cutscenes with in-game cutscenes, which I think does a good job of telling the story and also keeps the storytelling fresh. At times you'll feel like you're watching a high quality anime and almost forget you're playing a game as it's so well done. At the beginning at least, the balance between story and action seems to weigh more on the story side, but the game does well to set up the premise. I should also mention that there's an amazing intro tune that's hard not to watch and catjam to. You can play Tales of Arise with both English voiceover and Japanese, and both are done well. The soundtrack also does an amazing job of adding to the moment, swelling at all the right places for the most part, can be a little bit intense when exploring though. Final thoughts. Tales of Arise is a little slow to start, which makes the intro area a little boring as you just want to get out there and start using some ultra cool moves, but hanging in there, the abilities start to open up and the combat becomes much more enjoyable. The combination of character moves can result in epic, flashy looking fights, but the auto lock-on can feel a little unnatural, especially to begin with. The game reminded me a lot of Scarlet Nexus as the linear style and character ability swapping felt slightly familiar, but I will say that Tales of Arise feels much fuller as an overall game with a deeper combat experience and more variety in storytelling in my opinion, making it more balanced and well paced. What's great about Tales is that you can swap between playing characters Alphen and Xion when exploring. There's also a lot of great banter between the characters while you explore and at the camp areas when you rest. While the majority of the narrative is told through a mix of cutscenes, anime and comic strip styled conversations, you also get to pick up on the relationship between characters from their dialogues between these. There's also optional conversations to watch which will tell you more about the characters' thoughts on what's going on in the story. I thought this was just an overall nice touch, but I could understand this might not be for everyone. Tales of Arise offers some beautifully hand-drawn looking visuals and definitely brings the Tales side with the narrative. If you enjoy anime-inspired combat, a variety of customization, and can get on board with a linear world, you will enjoy Tales of Arise. You'll definitely get your fill of content as there are 40 or more hours of content depending on how meticulous you are with side quests and exploring and also what level of difficulty you're playing through.